Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl. Uh, I know it's been like a while, and yeah, in the past couple of days I just been, I caught like a fever. It was bad. Uh, it broke uh late evening yesterday, so not completely 100%, but well enough to like move around and converse and stuff like that. Still a little congested. I got a cough drop in my mouth just to try to suppress any coughs, so you don't have to hear all that. But yeah, I'm gonna be kind of making it short, but I just want to cover at least two things today. One of which I've been holding off because I'm supposed to have done it at least, you know, yesterday. Uh, but right now I want to cover season one, Miss Marvel. It just completely wrapped up now. What the fuck? I mean, to be fair, I need to cover like all the good stuff that I enjoyed here. First off, the lead actress, uh, Aman Vellani. I can't believe it's like her first major role, and she knocked it out of the park. I love her performance. She is so freaking adorable, and like she got these facial cues that she does, and it's like it just makes you just want to hug her. She's just so freaking adorable, and it's like when I have kids in the future, if they are not like about as dorky as her, I'll be you know completely, not completely, but it's just like I'll be sorely disappointed because this is kind of like a dorky kid you want to have. Uh, her family is like I dig the family aspects, the friends she acquires, great supporting cast. Although, and I don't know what's up with Disney when it comes to guys named Bruno, but you got this kid named Bruno who clearly is into Kamala, but I don't know if y'all got this kind of vibe, and I don't think I ever used this term, and I might have, but I can't recall. But it's like token white guy, because that's what he come across as. It's like he just there. I mean, I guess he's supposed to be like the man in the chair thing, but even Genki Leeds, in the Spider-Man trilogy, you know, left like a bigger presence than just like a token Asian kid or something like that. It's like Ned is just like I mean, it's like Ned leaves like a bigger impact, and Bruno's supposed to kind of fill that same space, but I'm just not. It's not like he's not a bad character, but it's just like I don't know. I kind of expected something more, or it's just like if you take him out of it, I don't think not much will be missed. I hate to say that. I'm glad he's there, but like I said, personally, I don't think like if he just written out altogether, it's like, I mean, like I said, you need some kind of science geek to do certain things that not many people are just that tech savvy. When it comes to these kind of superhero stuff, they always need that tech person. um, I love because I'm a huge Miss Marvel fan. I've been reading her comics for at least a better part of a decade at this point. Big fan. And I made a video months ago. You can check it out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkative Carl, as the story broke about them changing Miss Marvel's powers, albeit maybe slightly, but still is a glaring change because they feeding us like this BS rhetoric. They're like, oh, we don't want to confuse people because we're going to introduce Mr. Fantastic later on, so we can have two stretchy people. Like, bullshit, because you just don't have, like, you don't have the TV show budget to make stretchy powers look good. Then just freaking say that. But I call that brothers, because you got all this money from Marvel, Disney, and Star Wars. You got the freaking budget. Don't act like you don't have the budget to make stretchiness look good. And I don't care what people say about, like, Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Strange too. I didn't think I ain't had no problem with how the stretchiness look in there. Uh, but I love the uh, cultural representation of the Muslim community, a Pakistani community, and it's just like it's just beautiful, and it's just like I imagine how other communities felt when they was looking into like Black Panther movie and seeing like all like you know our culture, our roots. So now, and then like same thing with us when we looked in on like Shang-Chi and like the Asian culture and the influences they're heavily involved in. So now we got like Kamala and her community, and we are looking into this world, and it's fascinating, especially when we get to like they do this Back to the Future kind of thing, where she traveled back in time, briefly. We'll get to that in a second. I'm kind of jumping the gun. The Scott Pilgrim, cartoony animation is going on because he's like, everything's on her head, and it's not too dissimilar to what we see in her comics. It's not the same thing as like Gwenpool or Deadpool, but it's just like in that same vein. And I thought that was like, very creative. Um, excuse me. There's other people who are from like those the Pakistani community, when they see Kamala's mom and the way she like she's like a doting mother and stuff like that. From what I've heard, there's plenty of Pakistani children out there who has moms exactly like that apparently, and I get it, but also at the same time, the way she's like carrying on, it's like those overprotective moms. It seems like weirdly overprotective. It's not that too. Matter of fact, it reminds me of the mom from Turning Red, and it's like I know it's their culture and how they're raised. It's like it's the trend cultural transition when they go to a new country from the old country, and is a simulation kind of thing. So not that they not like they all lose their like cultural history, but they have to like get in to fit in, or is that the other way around? And so like Kamala, like huge Avengers fan, more specifically Captain Marvel. Just like in the comics, she's like a huge Captain Marvel fan. It's never explained like where this fandom of Carol specifically is coming from. But on the other hand, sometimes you don't really need an explanation of somebody who you just think of as your hero and just let it be that. She just happened to pick Carol Danvers. Excuse me. But I'm not sure what happened to, because in Shang-Chi they mentioned about the blip, so I think like maybe Shang-Chi and whoever like the character Aquafina was playing, maybe they got blip. But it's never explained about like Kamala and her family. Did they get blip? Because like through the course of that 5 years, uh, if she was still there, maybe she would have like, some fixation or reverence for still waiting for Kevin Feige to pull the Uno reverse card. I think I know what you mean. I'll get to that pretty soon, because I have some few choice words, and I'm flabbergasted how everybody's going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over this change they made of Miss Marvel, and I'm not with it. I just want to tell you that right off the bat, but I'll explain soon. Oh, excuse me, sorry. So, I'm pretty sure she and her family might got blipped. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter, but it's like, I don't know. It would be nice to see like where the love for like these. I mean, obviously they're heroes in this universe. They saved the world and all the other stuff. I'm pretty sure Kamala was like a little girl, probably like maybe 10 or some change. And maybe that's around the time when the Battle of New York started, possibly. Or maybe she might have been younger than that. I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7. Anywho, her grandmother sent like, it's kind of like a weird. Not, did she send them over, or they just found it in the attic? No. Her grandmother sent over this package with all this stuff, and one of these was like this bangle that clearly the mom knows exactly what it is, and her face get all turned up like she just smells something nasty, and then she's like, oh, it's nothing, clearly hiding something. It's not very subtle when they do things like that. But just like with Turning Red, yeah, Kamala wants to go. Well, Turning Red, like May wanted to go to this concert, but Kamala wants to go to this Avenger Con. It was pretty much, I guess, like Comic Con in our life, but they actually got like an Avengers Con dedicated around like their real life heroes. But it's like just like with Turning Red, she do this big presentation and all this this big showy kind of performance to convince, because her mom is such like a hard case about excuse me, it's such a hard case about letting her daughter, I guess because he's like the only daughter, and from according to the father in the last episode, like they have a hard time conceiving a second child, and they eventually got Kamala. So I guess they was like a overprotective of her more so than her older brother, who, by the way, I probably like just nearly like it's like my second favorite character behind Kamala Khan, because this dude is just like he just like he makes every scene fun. And like in most like TV shows and movies, like you got like older siblings that like, of course they tease each other, but it's not like you see in like Home Alone when and like the older brother ruthlessly messes with uh, Kevin every which way he can. Uh, yeah, I'm good, Derby. I'm just recovering from a fever, and I'm better, but I'm still a little congested. So pardon like the every once in a while cough. Uh, but I gotta, I love this guy, and it's really like the like at a certain point we stopped showing him because like after like the marriage to his fiance, and you get to see like a Pakistani wedding, which I never been privy to personally, but this is pretty good. They do this big old dance number, really puts like Kango's dance number in Eternals to shame. Like I said, like Camille Nanjiani, like got buffed for no reason because he doesn't really use anything. He does these little Yu Yu Hakusho finger guns, and it's like he didn't get buffed for any of that. But uh, and they reference Kingo, even though they don't know that Kingo keeps playing his son, father, and grandson, and nobody's the wiser. But I'm glad they made a reference to him. That's pretty dope. But uh, and it's like once again, like I said, it feels like Bruno is like a token white guy because it's like he just like. I mean, of course, like because he's a orphan and he's like kind of ingratiated himself in Kamala's family, uh, and it's like he I don't know when their friendship started, honestly, but he's speaking their language. Not that it's hard, like he probably obviously eventually, did Rosetta Stone or something, or Kamala just taught him how to speak their language. But he is like, he's like, dressing the part in like the Pakistani wedding and joining in on dance stuff. I mean, it's like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it was just like, I don't know. Not that it's like a try hard, but it's just like, I don't know. It's hard for me to put into words. I'm very middle of the road with Bruno. Uh, but then like when Kamala uh goes, it was like a fun sequence when like she breaks it down to Bruno in this little cartoonish comedic style of how they're gonna sneak out of the house because the mom didn't want to let. First of all, this was confusing to me. I've been to comic conventions before, and none, unless you go in some kind of after party situation, there's no convention that's late in the evening. Uh, you could easily get away with going to a convention when it's earlier in the day, and that part did not make any sense to me. What con is no con in any kind of iteration has like a convention unless it's one of those dirty ones. No, I won't say dirty, but like those porn conventions or something maybe. But even then, it's probably stretching it because whatever. But that part is like, okay, why is it? Because her mom thinking it's like a party, And that's another thing, because that's just not Pakistani moms. That's pretty much like all parents. Because when she did that, they kind of triggered something in my head. Because like I remember, uh, when I was a little kid, and like I was collecting Pokemon cards or getting like the games, and uh, uh, my father and my stepmother keep calling it like Pokemon, and there's a lot of parents who did that, and it's like, you know, they call Pokemon. You can read it right there. It has a O, not an A. You did it just to irk me, and it's like, I don't know why you do that, and it's like you can clearly read. So it's like, you know, Kamal's mom is calling it like a party. How many times does she have to say it? It's not a party, and that's another thing. Just like with the mom in Turning Red, she just refused to listen to her daughter because she's not accepting that her daughter is old enough to go to these things. Or at the very least, well, they try to do the whole chaperone thing. Of course, uh, they like, I view it as like, they don't totally get her, because even though it was a nice gesture by the father coming and dressed, painted all green like the Hulk and trying to get into her role. And it's like, that I'm not mad at, because any other show would have played it like, the opposite. Like they would just refuse to try to get into what their kid is into. I said this in my video dedicated to Kazuki Takahashi, as like a memorial kind of video that I did. That I think the second video, that when I was a little kid, during like the middle of the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of Duel Monsters back in the day, I remember, like, because it's kind of like tattooed in my brain. It's like one of my like favorite memories, I have with my father, where he saw that I was like really into Yu-Gi-Oh! I was like, to this day, I'm still love, the manga, the show, the card game, the video games, love all that stuff. And he was interested, like, because I got the cards, and at that time I was just grasping like the fundamentals of how to play the game, and my father asked me like, how do you play the game? So clearly he's not gonna play the card game, but he was just interested that I had like an interest in something. So I explained to him how like the mechanics of, and this is when it was like kind of basic before we get like synchro and exceeds and like pendulum summing down the line. So it's kind of like that. It's like the father is like and they was trying. It's like I like I said, it's like got some pretty smart writers that actually put in some good work in with this, but Kamala doesn't see it, or at least appreciate it at first, because she's into Captain Marvel. She got her own costume, and it, she likes all the Avengers. It's like she kind of, you know, not like an outburst, but it's kind of like a, sort of snap, but not like the what you expect. But you know, kudos to the acting, because a lot of these actors are not like named celebrities, and these are like, by and large, except for like the leader of Damage Control, who we've seen once in Spider-Man No Way Home. Everybody else, fresh faces, which I appreciate the hell out of. And the father, his like sullen sadness, as he walked away, like out of the room. So it's like she couldn't go to the. She was forbidden to go to the convention, so she ended up having to sneak out. doing this elaborate plan, and it's a fun little sequence. And it's like, Killer at the costume contest, and it's like people's like putting like a tiara on her, actually doing like the Queen's wave, and like slip back into the house unnoticed and falling asleep. Of course, everything goes awry. But when she tries on the bangle, when she puts on her costume at the convention, it unlocks her powers. Here I want to step in right away. As I mentioned in my video, discussion video, which I do plenty of discussion videos every once in a while, one of which that I made months ago when they brought it up about alternative powers, which, like I said, I'm a huge Miss Marvel fan, and I was livid when they decided to give her, because they don't want to confuse the audience when they introduce Mr. Fantastic. We can't have two stretchy people. Yes, you can. If you can have Wolverine and Deadpool with the same healing factor, people don't get confused. Give people a little bit more credit. And you're saying you want to give people less confusion by giving her diamond constructs like she's freaking Green Lantern. What sense does that make? But people love it for some reason. I just cannot understand why people... I know it's not like a big deal in the grand scheme of things. I'm just voicing my issues with that. Because like I said, I love Miss Marvel. She's been a certain way for a better part of a decade now. And it's been savvy. But and she got crystal powers that eventually, it simulates stretchiness, but it's like if you just erase the diamond stuff, you have stretchy powers, and it looks just fine. And you just obviously use that to cover up like the bad, or quote unquote bad, like CGI textures, because from what I've heard from like people who know VXF or VFX artists, they talk about how like it's hard to make stretching look good on screen. And I'm not saying they're wrong or anything like that. They know their stuff, so they would know the ins and outs of that technical stuff. But it's like, I'm pretty sure people will live with that. They're not looking for realism, stretchy stuff. Allow it to look cartoony because it's going to look cartoony. It's stretching. But there was this. I talked to this with some friends of mine, and they are in agreement. This little white girl that goes to Kabbalah school, I swear. And she wasn't like a bully, but sorry, the cough drop. She wasn't a bully, but Sakili was like turned off by Kamala's like awkwardness and stuff like that. And she's one of those like, social media influencer type of girls. And she didn't come across at first like any Avengers super fan at all, until one day she, Kamala and Bruno sees this girl dressed up as Captain Marvel to participate in the Captain Marvel costume contest, and I'm like, this fucking poser. And it's like, you poser. It's like, how like those kids back in school, they used to tease you and bully you for liking nerdy stuff and like and shaming you about it. Because I remember how many times kids say to me like back in the days, like, you only get to like Dragon Ball Z, everything else is like cordy or whatever. And it's like, why? And it's like, then years later you see them get into this kind of stuff, and it's like, you shame me for that kind of stuff. Like, like, what is this? And it's like you wasn't into none of that. Or even if you was, you clearly lied to me to make me feel like a chump in front of anybody else, so you don't look like, or you won't get teased. Unbelievable. So of course I feel Kamala's pain when she sees this brat, uh, dressing like kind of skimpy for a teenager, a Miss Marvel costume or a variant of one. But then so when her powers unlock, when she puts on the bangle, of course, like some kind of like an accident goes by. She saves the classmate, and she goes viral. This alerts damage control, and then this is a kind of not out of place, but it's kind of like unnecessarily hat on a hat situation, because clearly damage control is supposed to be at least a adversary for Kamala Khan. And there's this white lady, I forgot her doggone name, that works under the leader of damage control. And by the way, damage control in the comics is supposed to be like an organization that cleans up messes after a superhero battle. These look like just glorified FBI agents specifically tasked for superhero people. So they kind of like, tweaked the organization a bit. Just a little context for you guys. But this lady, she's like treated like a Karen. It's like, kind of got racist overtones to the things he says. And it's like, she's already an adversary. You don't need to put a hat on a hat to make her, like subtly racist on top of that. I don't think that was needed. She's already bad-ish at this point. But then Kamala gets busted because she didn't expect her parents to. Obviously, it was gonna happen. It's like, I don't know, like when it comes to these kind of movies or TV shows with kids, and they try to sneak out, they gonna get caught because they don't expect a random point for a parents to come check up on you. So the mom, lays into her for sneaking out, and then you meet this other friend of Kamala's who's goes to the same temple as her, and she's like she got a little side story about becoming like that church's like president, or and like she has like, well, she has cool moments, but the one I thoroughly enjoyed when she stepped up and and stood up to the damage control lady when she's trying to like bum rush her way into this temple where she has no warrant and no jurisdiction, clearly feeding into the narrative of like the racial profiling and stuff like that. um I love that scene. That was a badass moment for her part. Uh, but I'm glad we didn't like linger too much on it, because like only care to a certain level. I don't need to keep like going back and forth like, oh my god, how's that presidential election gonna come? Like, it's like, don't really care that much. Uh, then Kamala's trying to figure out where these powers come from. She's training, and while she's training how to use her powers, clearly she thinks her grandmother has something to probably know something about this, but her mom refuses to talk about it. refuses to talk about it because she feels like ashamed of her mother because like she became like a town pariah for some reason because the stories she tells about her childhood because she it was during when she was like just a maybe like 4 or 5 years old possibly. uh it was during this like situation where her parents was trying to leave on this train, and it was during like 1942. What's this thing called? uh uh, I, I can't find the word and I'm blanking on it, but anywho, uh you've seen like the show, you know I'm referencing, but uh she tells the stories about how like she got lost and she tried to find her father, and this trail of stars led her to the way to her father, and that helped saved her. And I guess she thought she was like to be crazy or whatever, but it became like she became a pariah, which made Kamala's mom kind of like, oh, you shamed the family with these weird stories. Uh, uh, what else happened? Uh, there's this like big like block party kind of thing, whereas like they's trying to drum up votes for Kamala's friend, but then a kid who was like trying to do some kind of Instagram thing on top of a building for some strange freaking reason. Uh, he uh, uh, falls over and is hanging on the ledge, and Kamala uh, uh, puts on her like cosplay costume and like saves a kid just narrowly because she didn't grasp the keeping the constructs solid for too long. But then you get to see like because there's two moments here that damage control damage control not only has the Stark drones that you saw from Far From Home, but you see this at the end, the last episode. They also have the freaking sonic cannons from the Incredible Hulk, which is like wow to me. Like, oh my god, they brought that back. It was like kudos. That was like a nice you know callback. But uh but that comes later. Then uh you see damage control try to apprehend Kamala because I guess after the whole Spider-Man situation, they're a little bit more conscientious about like you know I hate to use the word rounding up, but it's basically what it is. These uh young superpowered or just superpowered people in general that's like cause devastation. Uh, they try to apprehend. But then, because earlier in the show, Kamala meets this handsome dude. I'm blanking on his name, and which is kind of fitting because he's blanking on Bruno's name and keep calling him Brian until like the second last episode. Excuse me. Oof. Anywho, uh, uh, so she's feeling hell because like, oh, he's like good looking, and you know, they went out to like a party and they, he like jumped in the he was jumping off the pool, and he's shirtless, and then you know, woo wee, like hot dude with muscles, and Kamala's just like going gaga over him. So they just start hanging out. Lo and behold, he's connected to these uh, otherworldly beings called Jinn, or as you might know them as genies. Uh, uh, they're like trapped in like the earthly realm, and they're trying to get back home. Now, the way they come across is like, oh, this is cool. It's like nice people, and I'm thinking like, oh, they're might be called Jinn, but it might still be like Inhumans to some effect, maybe. I don't know. But uh, they also have like connected to her grandmother, who was also, as you learn later, also a Jinn. So that makes like, as you think, Kamala part Jinn or something. But and they figure Kamala have the powers to open up a gateway to get them home. So Kamala goes back home, talks to Bruno about looking into like extra dimensions and like ways to traverse between them. And Bruno looks up like recordings of Dr. Selvig. And according to Bruno, it's like, yeah, there's like a possibility that, forcing like a gate open between this other dimension will cause like a catastrophic kind of explosion on the earthly realm. So we can't exactly go through with that, because you can't really take that chance. So Kamala tells like the guy, and it's like, well, we'll figure it out. We can't do it. We can't force our way in because of that. Ramifications. So this is like the night of her brother's big wedding to his fiance, and then all of a sudden, and this would trip me up. All of a sudden, these people who've been like charismatic and nice, all of a sudden went murder happy to find and track down uh, 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 Kamala and force her to open up the gate. It was like, oh, what? Did I miss a scene or something? Like, why all of a sudden you murder happy and like you willing to kill anybody who gets in your way? Kind of, you didn't come across as vindictive at all. So it's like that. What scene did I miss? Clearly, I didn't miss any scenes. That is just out of nowhere character. Jesus. I wasn't coughing this much like an hour ago. But the Kamala in like a very dope way, you know, well, she had to pull the fire alarm just to get everybody out of the building because these jinn are gonna come up and just like murk everybody just to get to her. So you can't have that. And so she started like defending herself against these guys, and then eventually got away because the damage control eventually showed up, took down these jinn people, and including the leader of the jinn's son that Kamala had a crush on, and who was helping Kamala defend herself against these guys. Soon her like friend from like the mosque finds out, who clearly there's like been some reference that I might have overlooked because at the end of the towards the well at the last episode, Kamala bring up like to her friends like, I know how you feel about like super people and blah blah blah, and that's why I didn't want to tell you. And it's like, was your friend prejudiced against super people? Because like she never raised any issues she have against superpowered people. Maybe I over, maybe I didn't hear. Excuse me. Maybe I didn't hear, but it's like, ooh, where that come from? Mm. Yeah. So now, uh, then you get like you see Kamala and her mom taking this trip to Pakistan because she's thinking like, oh, I got like a bad seed because she thinks like Kamala's trying to ruin her brother's wedding, and Kamala's just not coming clean. So they go back to Pakistan, meet up with cousins and the grandmother. And by the way, speaking of cousins, when that the guy crush that Kamala has was having like a like a lunch or something at like a restaurant, and like the brother showed up and saw them, she like uh she like oh, this is our cousin, and I don't know about any of you, but I would recognize any one of my cousins at the very least by freaking face. So why would the brother? This is probably the only thing I did not like from the brother. You're not that stupid, man, are you? Why would you buy that cousin crap? Anywho, uh, Kamala had a talk with the grandmother, and she goes over the story, and then Kamala goes downtown to go to the site of that fateful day. It's like a historical landmark at this point, and hops on, well, not hops on the train, but then she bumps into one of these red dagger goons. It's not even a goon, it's just like a very Assassin's Creed kind of situation here, or Prince of Persia looking kind of guy. Another, It's got at least three potential love interests this girl has right off the bat in this show, and can't even keep track of this kind of stuff. But here's another one, and they belong to this organization that uh deals with like people like the Jinn. Uh, and of course Kamala, with the help of them, understand a little bit better, you know, about what's been going on. Then the Jinn breaks out of the custody of damage control, somehow makes it all the way to Pakistan. Don't even know how they track Kamala down. There's no way in hell they would have known she would have gone all the way to Pakistan while they was in custody. And of course, the mom leaves the son behind because he felt like he turned his back on them, which is devastating on that end. But then they did show up. They killed the leader of the Red Daggers. But then, as they tried to get the let's say bracelet, when they're trying to get the bracelet from Kamala, this triggers some kind of like time not loop, but just forces Kamala to go back in time, ironically, to the exact place that she needs to be, which is very convenient. But then you get to see the life of her great grandmother, who was a Jinn that met up with her great grandfather, and they fell in love, had a daughter, Kamala's grandmother, and the boy Cress's mom, I guess they've been trying to get home for a while. And it's like, how long you been stuck on Earth? But they've been looking for the same bracelet that the great grandmother had, but she hid it away. And so during this period, riots and so forth going on during this period of in 1942 in India, everybody's trying to board a train to get out of town, and it's like just madness. And Kamala sees the great grandmother dying, and then she ends up be the one to send those like crystal things that turns out to look like stars that leads her back to her father. And it's one of those kind of weird timey-wimey BS that like, oh, you're the catalyst of what that story was that you didn't realize that was a thing kind of thing. But she goes back to the present, and the gateway is opening a tear to like the other to the Jinn world. And it, when one of them, because like at this point there's only two Jinn left, because a couple others have been killed so far during this like scuffle, because it was like four of these guys, five of you including the son. But now it's like one black girl and the mom left over, and as the black woman's trying to touch like the gateway, see crystallizes up, like turned to like onyx or something, and then like as it's breaking apart, it's left nothing but a skeleton. Very creepy. And then like the mom thinking like, I can stop this, but then before she tries anything, I'm pretty sure it was her who sacrificed her life to close the portal. But then uh Partition. That was the uh infamous time period. Uh Cameron, that's the boy crush. Uh she transferred her powers to Cameron uh in order to close the veil. So, um now, like, the mom, and then later on the rest of the family sees that, now she has like power. And this moment was very Flashpoint, DC Flashpoint, where her great grandmother hands Kamala this photograph, a very 1942 photograph of her husband, and their daughter, Kamala's grandmother. And like she had it with her, and then when she get back to the present, she still had it, and she handed it to her grandmother. uh, and of course, uh, uh, whew, I feel like I eating a lot of ghost peppers or something. It feels like that one chip challenge that I did last year, and I'm just like sweating. Uh, and it felt like if you remember that ending scene from the Flashpoint movie, Flash hands Bruce the note that Bruce's alternate father signed for him, and to give to for Barry to give to Bruce when the timeline goes back to the way it was. This is and like, oh, you want to have a messenger kind of thing, and this is the exact same kind of thing. And that kind of blew my mind. Like, not that they ripped it off, but it's like, did they rip off Flashpoint? But that was a good move. But then they all come back to Jersey, and now like Damage Control is coming after Cameron, whose new powers are going like out of control because he can't control them. And now the Damage Control Karen, she disobeyed direct orders to pull back because they're surrounded the school where the kids are held up, and Kamala has the brand new costume that her mother sewed together for her, and she got the new her Miss Marvel name thanks to her father, who is cool, but it feels slightly like very coincidental that Miss Marvel, no, I'm sorry, Kamala is just another way of saying Marvel. And it's like, that's cute, but it's still kind of convenient. You know, especially if it's named after her specific hero. Um. And they in the last episode they put a disclaimer up about like some of these particular scenes might be triggering to some folks or whatever like that. Clearly because like all the school shootings and blah 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 been going on, so you got these like damage control goons coming in with like high tech pulse rifle things, and like trying to shoot at these freaking kids. And by the way, I don't know about y'all, but what's up with this fucking Home Alone type of trying to I think these guys who are assumed should be like nearly as trained, or at least probably a little bit more trained than SWAT, given how like tactically they move and what have you. They should be falling for these Home Alone bullshit. That is hard for me to grasp. And again, outsmarted by these, these children. This, I know you guys suspend your disbelief a bit, but come on. But then, because Cameron figures like, Kamala knows something about that what happened to his mom, and of course it's like, God, it's like from like the moment that the mom died, people have been suspecting like, of course, and then watch Cameron turn to a bad guy and blames Kamala, which he only a little bit did, but still counts. He still did that cliche. But it didn't last long. But then you got damage control Karen trying to use those like sonic cannon things to take down Kamala. And then here's another thing. Kamala's older brother and like the social media influence girl poser lady just shows up, even though they offer like an explanation, but it's like, you just popped up, like mom told me to come look after you, and like she's like, oh, like I streamed during in one of the rooms in the school because it has like better lighting. I was like, okay, it's like you really stretching the disbelief button here. But now Cameron's like going berserk, and then he's shooting out all these crystal crap. He's shooting out all these crystal crap, and I'm still not a fan of this stuff. I mean, like you can have him have this stuff, but not Kamala. But then, the damage control agents start like firing upon these two. She holds up her crystal shield, and then she does to her signature line in Biggin. She grows to massive height. Like I said, if you just erase that crystal crap, spot on Kamala Khan powers. Then she stopped the sonic cannon things, and helps get Cameron to escape, so that way the Red Dagger guy can get him, because like got to get him to the dock so he can get on his boat so they can get him out of the city. So she does that, but then like damage control, but trying to like round Kamala, but like you got the neighborhood that thanks to the social media girl, using her like like celebrity, and just to get everybody on board to show up to the school. Then they do this kind of cliche where it's like, oh, like they did this in Spider-Man 2, where it's like, oh, the neighborhood is behind and tried to protect the local hero, but I'm glad they kind of like sort of circumvent that little trope where it's like, we're official, we can just move y'all aside, move, what y'all doing, move. And then of course like Kamala is like, peace out, and it starts like she started doing this Bleach type of the anime Bleach. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That that anime Bleach when they do this like airwalk thing. She pretty much doing that instead of just In the comics, where she just stretches to, her legs to travel a good distance, kind of thing. And then of course, uh, damage control Karen gets a call from her boss telling her, like, you're relieved of duty. You disobeyed a direct order. And I like that, line gives like, no, don't talk, don't speak. I want you to, get your things, stand down. You're relieved of your duty. Get back here now. Uh, uh, and that was like because that was probably like the only badass moment. Because like the last time we see him, he was kind of like a, jerk in No Way Home. And I'm curious to know if like Julia Louise Dreyfus, who's been routing up the Thunderbolts, is gonna try to get the Karen involved or something like that. I doubt it, but it's just like just recruiting, just anti-Avengers. Um, then towards the end, and this is where I lost my shit because overall, I did enjoy the story. I love the actress who played Kamala Khan. I think she did like a phenomenal job. The two things that like irked me more than anything, I already mentioned about the altering the powers. I was ready to like, okay, I can probably just live with that. It's just her powers. I'll eventually will get over it. But, and this drives me freaking crazy how like everybody seems so okay with it out of this fucking blue. But, Bruno, checks her like, DNA out and says some kind of mutation. And you hear the subtle X-Men theme play. And it's like, fucking no. No, absolutely not. Alternate powers is one fucking thing. But I was afraid of this. They, completely, trying to, just because the Inhumans TV show bombed, you got Kamala Khan and Daisy Johnson from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who's been like, so far, the two best Inhumans that is being produced right now. And you already brought back Black Bolt in the Doctor Strange 2. Clearly you haven't forgotten them. And it's like you can easily use Kamala to soft reboot the Inhumans to do it right, because at that time the TV show runners and the movie show runners wasn't cooperating. So it's like, and then people are like, well, like back when Kamala was being like invented, she was initially supposed to be like a mutant, but they didn't have the rights to the X-Men at that time, so we had to make her Inhumans. And of course that was a bad idea, trying to make Inhumans in the like trying to fit the Inhuman circle inside the square hole of the X-Men, and of course it doesn't fucking work. But that was your mistake on first and foremost. Second of all, it's too freaking late. Sure, if things were different and you had the go ahead to do so, that's one thing. Whatever, then this timeline wouldn't freaking exist. But it does exist. Kamala Khan is, for a better part of a decade, has been a fucking Inhuman. You can't unring that bell at this point. It's not like she only been around for a couple of years and now it's like, oh, we changed our mind, we're going to change her, because that'd be a different thing, okay? Like, oh, she only been around a couple of years, so it's like, well, we'll just change her from being like a Inhuman into a mutant, because like she only been around like only a little bit. But it's like, it's good over like a good 10 years, and it's like, for all that time, we all accepted and known the origins of Kamala Khan being infected by the Terrigen Mist and unlocking her inhuman powers. And you trying to, instead of trying to fix Inhumans, you resign yourself to just throw the whole entire thing out. It's still part of the Marvel umbrella. You got all your toys in one section now, and you just want to throw a chunk of those away because reasons. Well, that's like, you got a team of pretty good writers on your side of things, and you working in tandem with new showrunners that would collaborate efficiently with the movie showrunners and make everything run smoothly. So why not, like I said, use Kamala Khan to soft reboot the Inhumans to make it all better. Besides, one of the scenes where, like, in the past when Cameron's mom and Kamala's great grandmother looking for the bangle, and it's wrapped around this blue hand, which I assume was a Kree because Krees are blue, and they had direct influence on creating the Inhumans. So it's like, and some people it's like, oh, this doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of the, or it's like, I don't care either way. Y'all should a little bit. She's an Inhuman. She's been an Inhuman for 10 years. Leave it be. Maybe I'm a little too close to it because I love, Miss Marvel a lot, and I read a lot of her comics. But it's like all of a sudden, like, oh, well, now we got the X-Men back. Let's change Wolverine into an Inhuman, and let's make Spider-Man a mutant now. And it's like, why? They were good as is. You changing things that doesn't need to be changed and working just fine, and it's like, it bothers me, and it's like I was fuming all today thinking about this and how I was gonna verbalize this on the video, because I'm flummoxed. Why? It doesn't make any sense. And like, I'm seeing people like going, "Woo, X-Men things! Oh, come on, it's gonna be an X-Men!" Like, why are you cheering? She's an Inhuman, clearly defining the origin story for a long time at this point. You can't just unring that bell just because the Inhumans suck to you. It's like, it's not unsalvageable. Doctor Strange just proved that. People cheered when they saw Black Bolt come back. Clearly there's something there, and you trying to like throw it all away. And some other reviewer talking about like, oh, that's just a cap off to wrap up put a button on Inhumans. Why you button up the Inhumans? They are part of Marvel. Just like Punisher, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Despite how you feel about Iron Fist, he's a part of this world. You can fix him. Okay? Whoever, just like how y'all, fix Dark World thanks to Endgame, you can pretty much do the exact same thing if you get some good writers on your hands and people who might give a damn. Oh my God. It's just like, it bothers me. And yeah, I might seem a little sensitive, and I don't want to sound like one of those nerds like, actually, like, I don't want to sound like that, but it's just like, this is like a change that's gone, like, it's like a little too far. Like I said, like, the alternative powers, I can see myself eventually living with that, but changing her Inhuman origin story is a no-no for me. I'm sorry. Those people who are cheering for her being like a mutant, it's like, yeah, maybe at a time you initially wanted her to be a mutant, but you have to go with Inhuman. Too late now. Like I said, you cannot unring that bell. And it's like, why y'all cheering now when it's like, prior to the show, everybody was, content with Kamala being an Inhuman. That's all we knew. Just like how Spider-Man's origin story, Uncle Ben getting shot, him getting bitten by the spider, getting the spider powers, great power comes great responsibility. That's a set thing that you cannot bend that rule unless you're doing like an alternate like what if thing or something. Captain America gets the super soldier serum, come out bulky and like and like just awesome. That's a set thing. You can't just like fucks with it. God, and that's why I want to say this part at the end, because like I mentioned all the good stuff, but like I said, the changing the powers and then changing the origin story. Now, this they might change this in the Marvels, but and bring it back to the whole Inhuman thing, maybe. But I doubt it, because they had to play that theme song just to lean in to like, oh, she's a possible mutant, and then I forgot what I was about to say, but it's just. But then like you get the post credit scene, which I kind of wish they go back to like at the very least halfway through these Disney Plus shows, they give us like with the Marvel specifically, they give us some kind of like end credits halfway through the season, but whatever. But at the end credit of the last episode, you get to see like Kamala like messing around with the bracelet, and she gets like swapped out. She goes somewhere, and she gets swapped out with Captain Marvel. You get to see Captain Marvel, whose costume is like, it's cool, but it's like, okay, like this is like a new variant of a costume. You see upgraded after a certain point from the events of Endgame, because like she got a new hairstyle. Rocket Raccoon was right. It was like he made a joke about her like keep changing her hairstyles. She kind of does. It's like now you got a whole brand new hairstyle. It's like, I know girls change their hairstyle a lot, but it's like, man, you always have something new per movie. But I just like her reaction where she was like in some strange room and you see all these pictures of her all over the place, and then she just dips out. Like that part cracked me up. But it's like, it's not a good look to have some strange white lady in your house, especially in your daughter's bedroom. That is just like, okay, that could have gone way wrong in like a different genre of a show. If this was like played it straight, this would be completely like unnerving. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Miss Marvel, and it's like, I kind of hope, this is what I recall what I was going to say, I kind of hope this whole situation with the mutation, blah blah blah, I just hope this is like a Ralph Boner joke. I hope it's true, that he kind of just fucking with us, but I doubt it. But I never wanted like a Ralph Boner joke so bad in this context. But they'll be back in the Marvels, which I am looking forward to, because like, unlike most people, I did not hate Captain Marvel. And Brie Larson's a pretty good actress, and like y'all just like poo-pooing it, just at least half of y'all poo-pooing it just for the sake of it. But anyway, thank you all for joining me. I will see you guys in like a good 10 minutes, because I want to get into my spoiler review of the 2004 Punisher movie starring Thomas Jane. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys later.